This year's big Hellfire Gala begins with a surprise. Kamala Khan, recently killed by an evil mathematician trying to become a death god, is back. The X-Men's new resurrection service has identified her as both an inhuman and a mutant, somehow, and they rushed her resurrection to the top of their list. Granted, coming back means you get hatched out of an egg, but hey, not dead. Cyclops and Emma Frost come in to greet the new mutant. Kamala knows Cyc from his time on the Champions, though thanks to time travel, he's now an adult again. They still hug it out, and he mentions his son's an old man. Time travel is crazy stuff. Emma was the one who pushed this, hoping for Kamala to come out as a mutant. Krakoa, the X-Men nation, needs all the good press it can get, so they brought back Jersey City's hero. For PR. Unfortunately, Kamala isn't eager to tell people she's a mutant. Even so, Ms. Marvel isn't getting out of this without at least joining the X-Men for a party. Emma summons Jumbo Carnation, famed mutant fashion designer, to measure their guest for a new dress. He's doing his work even while Kamala finally processes what just happened. Shocked, she asks the mutants how she died. Cyclops is evasive, just telling her to talk to Spidey. Starting to freak out, Kamala remembers her parents. She has to have been gone for a while, but Emma tells her not to worry. She'll just rewrite their memories of the last few days. Yeah, nothing to worry about there. Now Kamala's back, the group who'd gathered to welcome her starts to leave one by one. Jumbo promises her dress will be magnificent. Cyclops offers her a chance to try out the Krakoan portal networks, walking to the moon with a step. Don't worry, you can take it as slow as you want, but being a mutant is pretty damn great. Soon enough, world dignitaries are flying in for the X-Men's big party on the island of Mykonos, while Jumbo makes out with the local lighthouse keeper. The 5-in-1, sometimes known as the Stepford Cuckoos, are the hostesses this year and are giving the opening address. Last year, they were all, "You literally couldn't pay us." The turns have tabled. The party will see the mutants elect a new X-Men team, and they're also going to unveil mutant breakthroughs in housing and agriculture technology, courtesy of Forge. But something's gone wrong. Cyclops just heard an alarm go off at the treehouse, the X-Men's New York headquarters. Jean offers to go with him, but Scott turns her down, shifting into costume and running for a portal. Juggernaut comes up to Jean afterwards, wanting to thank the X-Men for their help with his redemption. Jean takes it graciously and implies he could be in with a spot on the new team. Kamala, meanwhile, is talking with Professor X, working things out. Ms. Marvel's grateful to the X-Men for resurrecting her, but still wants to keep her mutant side secret. Her parents don't even know about her superhero identity. This would freak them out even more. Xavier accepts that, but points out that in the long term, having their daughter back will do them more good than this revelation could. Just like Emma, the professor was hoping having Ms. Marvel as a known mutant would help change people's minds about their people. You have a lot to process. We hope you will join us, but not tonight. Be with your friends and family. Be good to yourselves. Join us in your own time. And please, call me Charles. As soon as Xavier's headed off, a strange metal woman bows to Kamala, calling her a mutant of tremendous importance. She's Rasputin IV, a hero from a dark future timeline who has only recently arrived in this era. Rasputin's extremely excited to meet Kamala, a legendary hero from what, to her, was long gone history. The idea that Kamala wants to keep her identity secret shocks Rasputin, and seeing a super powerful fighter look up to her like this amazes Kamala. While the two are hitting it off, that New York intruder has gotten through the treehouse's security. He's found his target, the uniform of the X-Men's new national hero, Captain Krakoa. Pulling a vial of liquid from his coat, the thief injects the holding device. But before he can claim his prize, the room starts to rumble. You didn't think you could waltz into the home of the X-Men undetected, did you?
Far from it. I wanted a fair fight. It's been a while.
The thief runs right at Cyclops, planting his left shoulder right in the mutant's gut. The X-Men leader manages to knock him back with a shaky hook, but he's reeling still. He tries to buy himself some more space with an optic blast, but the intruder jumps away. Who are you?
I'm just a man.
Cyclops hits with his next shot, yelling at the intruder to stay down. Wincing, the X-Men leader starts talking to Forge on his comm. The treehouse is continuing to shake and destabilize like it's been poisoned.
The hubris of you mutants. I tell you the truth, that I'm just a man. And what do? You turn your back on me. You think me less than you, when in fact, I am more. Not much of a fight, unfortunately. And Captain Krakoa is needed tonight in Washington, D.C.
He drags the broken Cyclops to the balcony of the treehouse.
Flames or gravity? Dealer's choice then. Gravity it is.
Cyclops, one of the first and greatest leaders of the X-Men, hits the ground with an undignified thud. The people of Central Park are shocked, but before they can react, the treehouse roars, fully engulfed in fire as Captain Krakoa takes to the air. In Washington, D.C., the Senate Intelligence Committee is discussing Krakoa. Their current witness is very skeptical about the mutant nation and suggests that the United States ally with anti-mutant group Orchis. But before he can finish giving his pitch,
I suggest you yield your time to Captain Krakoa.
The senator yells for the captain to leave as a nervous bailiff tries to run for it. The captain knocks him to the ground with one punch.
Who remembers what Magneto told your ambassadors in Jerusalem?
You have new gods now. The mutant marauder pulls 2 grenades, dropping the pins to the floor.
Yes, and your gods are angry.
In the Hellfire Ballroom, Sam Wilson is a little weirded out to see well-known villain Wilson Fisk dancing with his wife Typhoid Mary. Krakoan Sanctuary means they get to both chill here, and the heroes can't touch them. Frenzy and Prodigy have just accepted having villains around by this point. But before they can talk more, Cap gets a call. In no time, the main Avengers are flying out of the party. Rogue, both X-Men and Avengers, looks at her comm unit to see what's going on. Unknown, subject attacks America's capital. Steve Rogers was sitting in a Brooklyn cafe sketching neighborhood dogs when he heard about the Capitol attack on TV. He suits up quickly, driving towards the closest jet, ready to help when, hang on, I might be in trouble. Bike is off balance, pulling to the left. A couple of pounds of plastic explosive on the chassis will cause some alignment issues. Cap dives for the river before the blast can reach him. He falls below the surface of the Hudson, where a whole squad of Orchis scuba diving assassins are waiting for him, knives drawn. Urgent. Captain America Steve Rogers has activated his emergency beacon and is unresponsive. Rogue heads out of the gala, making for Steve's last known location. The party doesn't stop though. Jean Grey takes the floor. She and Cyclops are stepping back, putting Synch and Talon in command of the new X-Men team. With that done, the 5 start coordinating telepathic votes to decide who will join the group. Back in the Hudson, Steve Rogers is struggling for his life. An Orchis trooper grabs him by the throat, throwing a wire around it. Steve tries to wrestle himself out of the grip, easily blocking the first clumsy knife strike to come his way. But even he can't breathe underwater. Cap is running out of time. Finally, one of the Orchis grunts lands a stab. Steve cries out, opening his mouth and letting water run in. But before he can drown, something pulls Cap right out of the water. Rogue has arrived, sporting magnetic powers she copied from Polaris. Steve's grateful for the assist. It just takes Rogue a second's thought to grab the remaining Orchis troopers too. Before they can do anything, one of the goons hits the detonator for a bomb. Rogue dumps them in the water before the blast can hurt her or Steve. A happy ending. And at the gala, the votes are in for the new X-Men team. They take the stage, everyone cheering. Cannonball, Talon, Synch, Prodigy, Dazzler, Frenzy, Jubilee, and Juggernaut forgiven at last. The future of the X-Men. And in a second, they're reduced to a gory mess as Nimrod drops from orbit. The sheer force of the robot attacker falling to Earth turns these heroes to a gory mess.
Sorry to drop in.
Jean Grey manages to blunt the shockwave with her telekinesis, saving the rest of the party, but the force is enough to throw her and Juggernaut out of the ballroom. Jubilee manages to curse out the robot one last time before Nimrod crushes her head into the ground.
No need to be rude.
The X-Men aren't gonna sit back and die. Psylocke readies her mind blades, while Magic runs to teleport the humans out, alongside the 5, Krakoa's Resurrection Squad. Unfortunately, Orchis has poisoned Magic with nanotechnology that disabled her powers at this exact moment. And she didn't notice before. Really? Okay, sure. Well, they didn't get Iceman, who jumps into the fight with Nimrod. The cryo-combatant unleashes a furious kick on the giant robot, following it up with a spiked ice ball to its face. I terraformed an entire planet. What are you compared to that?
Funny you should mention that. I'm going to liberate this planet, one mutant at a time.
The giant robot stabs Iceman with a hidden syringe. Bobby managed to crack Nimrod's head, but the fight's over now. Iceman's still on his feet, but the energy Nimrod injected into his system continues to build, and the heat of it makes him melt from the inside out. Bobby just stares, his sight fading as he tries to reach out one last time for his boyfriend. Kitty Pryde and Romeo both scream as their friend deteriorates into nothing but a pile of sludge. Nimrod doesn't care. He's targeting the most powerful mutants first. Now he's looking for Jean Grey, but she's already here and has a question for him. What can stop the Juggernaut? She throws the massive armored warrior at the robot with the force of a sonic boom. It's enough to knock Nimrod out of the ballroom, and Juggernaut follows him down, more than ready to exact some payback on the murderous machine. But while that's going on, a whole fleet of Iron Man-based Stark Sentinels are flying towards the ballroom, opening fire. The rest of the Xmen are going to be busy. Sync and Polaris are just about able to hold them back, but it's going to be tough. And things are getting worse as Dr. Stasis and Omega Sentinel, Nimrod's fellow Orchis leaders, dance into the room, twirling around. Karima dips Stasis as the two get close to Professor X.
Why, you look surprised, Charles. If you'd been paying attention, you would have gotten our RSVP for tonight.
You're going to pay, you wretched madman. I want you to see what I've accomplished. Look into my mind. He's added a kill switch into the medicine Krakoa offers the world. Every human who bought stuff from them can be killed easily. Xavier's shocked, but Stasis and his new friend, MODOK, are here to demonstrate. One press of a button, and half the human guests start suffering painful seizures. They contort their bodies, several throwing themselves from the top of the buildings just to get the pain to stop. While that's going on, Orchis troops and drones enter via hacked Krakoan teleport gateways. Tonight is getting worse by the second. But the X-Men don't just lay down and die. Curse is taking laser blasts like they're nothing, while Magma throws out fire blasts behind her. Kate Pryde goes for her old friend, Strong Guy. Yes, that's really his hero name. The muscular mutant throwing her towards the nearest Sentinel with a fastball special. Kitty phases right through the giant Iron Man head, shorting out its cognitive circuits. The Stark Sentinel crashes into the ground nearby, defeated with a single blow. Kingpin finally manages to find his wife, Mary, in the chaos, but Omega Sentinel punches him back, the former master of crime snarling at the Orchis robot. All the X-Men are coordinating against the giant murderous Iron Man. Exodus can just blow them up with his mind. The five are teaming up to take one down, piece by piece. Rasputin IV pulls Miss Marvel close. She's got Kitty Pryde's power too. Kamala can hold a Stark Sentinel down with her embiggened hands, while Rasputin climbs up the thing and sticks her hand right inside its head. It falls to the rocky ground hard, but the two new friends don't have long to talk. The ground is starting to shake as Nimrod and the Juggernaut face off.
You picked the wrong party to crash, buddy. I already apologized for that.
Nimrod throws a massive energy beam before the one-time champion of Sidorak can reach him. Juggernaut screams as Nimrod forces him back into the tower, cracking its foundations. The whole thing starts to fall into the sea, but then it stops. Everything stops. Jean Grey holds the whole fight in place. She apologizes to the human guests for this terrible party before turning her attention to Orchis. They chose violence against the X-Men, against mutant kind. If they let go of hatred, they'll get to live through this. She'll put the humans down, and then she'll change their minds. She's so angry at what's happened tonight, she's just gonna brainwash them all to make sure this could never happen again. But while he doesn't know the exact details, Dr. Stasis has one more trick up his sleeve. Orchis kept one agent in reserve, one who had an artificial mind telepathy couldn't read. And with one quick, well-placed stab, Moira McTaggart kills Jean Grey, mightiest of the X-Men. In her last moments, Jean finally hears Cyclops. Back, broken, lying beneath the burning treehouse. Scott apologizes for not being able to come back and help her. Moira laughs over the telepath's fallen body. Jean, clinging to life, asks what was on the dagger. Moira confirms that it's Blight's will, a magic compound designed to get around mutant resurrection. Killing Jean isn't enough to end the fight. All the remaining X-Men are ready to rally together and take Orchis down. But then, Moira puts her poison knife to Xavier's throat. Krakoa's been selling their medicine to humans everywhere. Moira makes that the threat. Unless the mutants surrender, Orchis will broadcast MODOK's signal worldwide, and every human using Krakoan medicine will die. Just like that. And Xavier doesn't hesitate. He orders his X-Men to stop, backing up his words with some forceful telepathy. The professor takes off his helmet with a frown, bowing to his followers. I surrender. Moira and Stasis are happy to accept that. They've got simple terms. All the Krakoan teleport gates now point away from Earth. Orchis will end it here, provided the mutants leave. They've got enough negative publicity for mutants to be satisfied with this. Xavier claims he couldn't make all the mutants agree to just walk away from Earth, but as Moira points out, they don't have to agree. Xavier can use his telepathy to make them walk. If they come back, Orchis will just keep killing humans to make their points. Xavier begs them not to make him do this, but as they do, obscure mutant Firestar hears Jean Grey's voice in her head. She's not dead yet, and she's got one last plan for her old friend. She's invaded Stasis's mind. She was going to just erase him, but she's got a better idea. Jean can make him think he recruited Firestar, making her a mutant traitor loyal to Orchis. The X-Men can't fight back against this without information. They need her to be a spy. Firestar agrees without a second thought. They cook up a story easily. Firestar meeting up with Stasis at a coffee shop shortly after she was elected to last year's X-Men roster. In physical space, Xavier finally puts his helmet back on. He doesn't have a choice here. Go, my X-Men. All over the world, mutants slowly shamble through repurposed Krakoan gateways. Xavier sends them one last message, claiming this was all in an effort to save human lives. And on Krakoa's Atlantic archipelago, another player makes her move. Mother Righteous, Dr. Stasis's magic-using rival, puts a hand to the portal. As the mutants file through the gateways, Righteous rises above the abandoned island, enveloping it in the light of her lantern. She pulls the island into the astral plane, trapping it in one of her many lanterns. Righteous cups it in her hands, frowning. Even she's unhappy with what's happening tonight. Xavier's evacuation continues all over the world. How much do we love mankind? Is it enough to stay away for a time? Yes, as long as necessary to protect them from evil. I can feel so many of you resisting, but please trust me now. This is the right thing to do. If we love them enough, we'll give them the distance they need right now. But all the same, some mutants are starting to resist. Xavier trained the X-Men to be able to fight back against rogue telepaths. Poor Curse is being carried to a portal by 4 controlled mutants. With her last words, she tries to cuss out Xavier before she's finally pulled away. Xavier screams in sheer hurt, pain, and frustration as the march continues. Jean's body has decayed into a skeleton, but her mind still remains, clinging to existence for a little longer. She says one last goodbye to Cyclops as he lies on an ambulance bed. Scott mutters to her not to go as his body is driven away from the burning treehouse. Wolverine, who hasn't taken one step towards the portal, hears her too. The Orchis Special Forces are getting jumpy that he's not gone through the portal. Now he knows Jean's gone, Logan knows that he's going nowhere. He wades right into the fight, slicing through the invaders one after another. He's a one-man massacre. Exodus gets the 5 through the portal with brute force, wanting Mutantkind's Messiah figures out of the line of fire right away. Mystique, though, doesn't want to leave. Xavier focuses his mental powers on her, but that just makes Raven fight harder, ultimately driving her to throw herself out of the window. She lands on the rocks, a bloodied, broken mess. Dr. Stasis finds this hilarious, still chuckling as Mystique gets washed out to sea. MODOK confirms that the Atlantic island has disappeared. But before Orchis can do more, Stasis realizes something. Most of the X-Men aren't moving. They're all strong enough to resist Xavier, even Miss Marvel, who joined like an hour ago. Still, Moira's now in tactical gear and still has that Blight's Will poison knife. They ain't safe. Emma wakes up the remaining mutants, planning to use her friend Lord's powers to teleport them all to safety. The remaining mutants and friends start clasping hands, trying to get ready for the jump. Moira yells to her orchid friends to stop the teleporter, throwing her knife at Lords. It hits a member of the crowd instead. Before he can join the escape, Moira grabs Xavier, yelling at the Orchis troops to open fire on Lords. One soldier has her in his sights, but Wilson Fisk crushes his head.
I think not.
The next guy tries to show as Kingpin joins the escape. He's a second too late though. Just like that, most surviving mutants have escaped right under Stasis's nose. Lords took them to the basement of the Hellfire Club. Everyone's shocked and upset. Kingpin wants to know where Mary's gone. Kitty wants to go back and help everyone. But they're going nowhere. Lords took a bullet even as she was teleporting the group out. She falls down in Emma's arms, gasping a few last breaths. Emma tells her friends that she saved them all. Still, the former White Queen regrets this. Lords could have gotten out of the superhero life, but the teleporter has no regrets. She saved people, fought for the dream. Even now, at the end of her life, it was worth it. Back on the island, MODOK is still merrily pouring new drugs into the portal system. Nimrod finally joins the rest of Orchis, dragging Juggernaut's body behind him.
What's Firestar still doing alive? Do I have to do everything?
You're too hasty, friend. Firestar's been feeding us information about Krakoa since before she was an X-Men. Now that we're going public, she's joining Orchis full-time. That just leaves Xavier to deal with. Moira's very excited to finally kill Charles, but before she can, there's an interruption. Excuse me, I'd like to get off Michines now. I finally got a signal on my mobile, and the top news story is that there were no human survivors of the Hellfire Gala. I've got to leave and correct that mistake. Can you believe this? Our public relations department sent out the press release too early. Whoopsies, this is awkward. Kill the humans. Xavier screams at them not to, but Orchis shows no mercy, gunning down the diplomats. A few seconds later, they're all dead. The Hellfire Gala's in ruins. Mutants are going to be hated more than ever. Moria gloats that the dream of human-mutant coexistence is dead, and Xavier himself going down will be the final nail in its coffin. The professor doesn't flinch as she raises the knife. He knew Rogue was on her way. Having now saved Steve, Rogue rips Moira in two before grabbing the professor and flying away. Her plan was to take Xavier to Cap, but as the professor manages to think, he screams, ordering Rogue to take him to Krakoa. Rogue tries to object, but Xavier explains. Everyone's gone. He thought the gates were leading to Mars, but he can't sense anyone there either. The gates were a trap.
They're gone. All of them. They're all dead.
Rogue can't believe it. That's 250,000 mutants on Krakoa alone, dead in an instant. But Xavier's convinced they're gone, and that it's his fault. His mental suggestion made this happen. I pushed them all into a meat grinder.
Oh, they're all dead.
All dead! And I killed them! Now leave me. Go avenge them.
Avenge
Rogue flies off without another word, leaving Charles Xavier alone on the beach, a broken man. A dark time. As dark as Nueva York, when forced to deal with a whole new Carnage 2099.